It was one of those quiet afternoons when the world feels like it's standing still. The lake was calm, the breeze soft, and I had gone there just to clear my head. I wasn't bothering anyone, just sitting on the edge of the dock, letting my feet dangle over the water. But then, from the corner of my eye, I noticed her. You know the type: stiff posture, arms crossed, eyes narrowing like she was scanning for trouble. That was the moment I realized this day was about to turn into something I didn't see coming. She walked closer, phone already in hand, glaring like I'd trespassed into her personal kingdom. I could hear little bits of her muttering something about suspicious activity and someone shouldn't be here. The next thing I knew, she was dialing. Her voice got louder, sharper, like she wanted me to hear every word she was telling 911. I sat there, calm on the outside, but inside, my mind was racing. Why was she even doing this? What did she think I was up to, fishing illegally? Planning a heist on the docks? Minutes later, I heard sirens in the distance. She stood taller, almost proud, like she had just saved the town from a terrible danger. I could see the flashing lights weaving through the trees, the sound of tires crunching over the gravel. My heart was beating fast, not because I was scared, but because I knew something she didn't. Something that was about to flip this whole scene upside down. The officers stepped out, their eyes scanning me first, then her. She started talking. A mile a minute, pointing, explaining, gesturing like she was reliving a dramatic movie scene. But then it happened. Their faces changed. The authority in their stance softened, replaced by a flash of recognition. They froze. Suddenly, the energy shifted, and for the first time, she looked unsure. She glanced between us, clearly confused. And as the officers slowly approached, one of them said something that made her jaw drop, and that's when everything turned. In a way she never expected. The officer's words hung in the air like a pause button had been pressed on reality. Karen's mouth opened slightly, but no sound came out. She was waiting for them to follow her lead, to back her up, but instead, they were looking at me like I wasn't just some random person by the lake. One of them even gave me the faintest smile, like he already knew the whole situation before I could explain a thing. Karen's confidence started to crack. She crossed her arms tighter, her eyes flicking between me and the officers as if she was trying to figure out what she had just stepped into. The breeze picked up, rippling the water and making the dock creak under my weight. It was strange. The air felt heavier now, like everyone was holding back what they really wanted to say. I leaned back slightly, letting the moment stretch. In my head, memories of this lake began to surface. Summers spent here as a kid, fishing with my grandfather, the little boat we used to take out before sunrise. I knew almost every inch of this shoreline, every curve of the trail that wrapped around it. And I knew a lot of people who knew me because of it. Karen didn't know that part. To her, I was just some stranger taking up space in her spot. She probably didn't notice the old plaque on the far side of the dock or the photo in the visitor center with my face on it from a community event years ago. She only saw what she wanted to see. The officers kept their calm, but I could feel the curiosity in their eyes. One of them adjusted his radio as if waiting for the right time to speak. The other glanced back at the patrol car, then at me, almost like he was silently asking if I wanted to explain or let Karen dig her own hole deeper. Karen finally broke the silence with a shaky laugh. "So, are you going to tell me what's going on here?" she asked. I didn't answer right away. The truth was, I wasn't sure how much to reveal just yet, and part of me wanted her to keep wondering. The wind carried the faint smell of pine from across the lake, mixing with the sharp scent of the gravel lot where the patrol cars sat. I could hear the soft hum of their engines still running, almost like they were waiting for someone to call this whole thing off. But no one did. Karen's eyes narrowed again, though this time it wasn't with the same certainty she had before. She was piecing together clues, but the picture wasn't clear enough for her yet. The taller officer took a slow step forward, his boots crunching against the gravel. "Ma'am," he said evenly, "I think there's been a misunderstanding." His voice was calm, but there was something else under it, like he already knew exactly how this was going to play out. Karen turned sharply toward him. Misunderstanding. He was just sitting here, acting all suspicious. She gestured at me like I'd been caught doing something unspeakable. "You don't just sit by a lake," and she stopped mid-sentence. Realizing how ridiculous it sounded out loud, I watched her wrestle with her own words. It would have been easy to tell her everything right then about my connection to this lake, about why the officers recognized me, but something in me wanted to see where this would go. From the corner of my eye, I noticed a small group forming at the far end of the dock. A couple of fishermen had stopped to watch, their rods leaning against the railing. An older man I recognized from the bait shop was standing with them, squinting in our direction like he was trying to confirm if it was really me. I could tell he'd figured it out already. Karen, still oblivious, was now listing off reasons why people like me might be dangerous. The words hung heavy in the air, but the officers stayed quiet, their eyes locked on her. I caught a faint exchange of looks between them, something unspoken passing between the two. That's when the shorter officer took out his phone and made a quick call. His tone was low, almost casual, but I knew that whoever was on the other end was about to change everything. The shorter officer's voice was quiet, but every syllable felt deliberate. Karen kept glancing at him, trying to figure out who he was talking to, her arms tightening across her chest like she was bracing for something. I stayed still, my feet still dangling over the dock, watching the ripples in the water stretch and fade. It was almost peaceful if you ignored the fact that the air was thick with tension. The call ended, and the officer slid his phone back into his pocket without a word. His eyes met mine for a second, then shifted toward the road that led into the park. I followed his gaze. Far off, past the curve of the trees, I saw another vehicle approaching, not a police cruiser this time, but a dark SUV with tinted windows. Its slow, steady approach made it stand out even more against the quiet scene. Karen noticed it too. "Who's that?" she asked, her voice a little sharper now. No one answered her. The fishermen on the dock shifted uncomfortably, whispering among themselves. Even the older man from the bait shop had straightened up, watching closely. The SUV rolled to a stop beside the patrol cars. The door opened, and a man stepped out. He was dressed casually, but there was a quiet authority in the way he carried himself. His eyes scanned the scene, landing on me almost instantly. He didn't hesitate. He walked straight toward me. Karen took a step back, confused but unwilling to show it. "Excuse me, but what is going on here?" she demanded, her voice breaking slightly at the edges. Neither officer responded. The man stopped just a few feet away from me. For a moment, the only sounds were the gentle lapping of water and the faint rustle of leaves in the breeze. Then, in a tone that was calm but carried, "Wait," he said my name. Karen froze. Her head snapped toward me, her expression a mix of disbelief and something else. Maybe fear, maybe regret. She opened her mouth to speak, but before she could get a word out, the man turned to her. His next words would change everything. The man's gaze stayed fixed on Karen, and when he finally spoke, his voice was steady but carried an edge that made everyone lean in. "Do you know who you just called the cops on?" he asked. The question wasn't meant to be answered. It was more like a challenge, hanging in the air, demanding her attention. Karen's lips parted, but no sound came out. Her eyes darted to me, then back to him, and for the first time, she looked like she wasn't sure if she should stand her ground or retreat. The officers stayed quiet, their expressions unreadable, almost like they were just as curious about what he was going to say next. But then, instead of explaining, The man pulled something from his jacket, a folded document, worn at the edges, sealed with an official-looking stamp. He handed it to the taller officer, who opened it and gave a slight nod. Karen craned her neck too. See, but they kept it angled away from her. The fishermen whispered louder now, couple of them pulling out their phones like they knew this moment was worth recording. The older man from the bait shop muttered something under his breath that I couldn't quite catch, but it made the people near him tense up. Karen took a half step toward the officer. "What is that? Why can't I see it?" Her voice had a tremble now, the confidence cracking more with every second. The SUV man ignored her question and turned to me. "We need to move," he said quietly, but with enough force that it felt less like a suggestion and more like an order. That's when the sound hit, another set of sirens. But these weren't coming from the same direction as before. They were closer, faster, cutting through the still air like a warning. Everyone turned toward the source, and through the trees, more vehicles appeared. Not police cruisers this time, but something else entirely. Their flashing lights unfamiliar. Karen's face went pale as the new convoy pulled in. Whatever she thought this was, it was.